I didn't even know what a human tooth looked like until I found one tumbling around inside our washing machine drum. Not a baby tooth. Not something our 5-year-old son lost and forgot. No, this was a molar. Root and all. Bloody. Fresh. Still warm. That's how this story starts. Not with a fight. Not with a suspicion. Not even with a cheating text message. Just a tooth. My first reaction? I dropped it. It bounced off the tile like a tic-tac. I actually said out loud, "What the hell?" and crouched down, staring at it like it might speak. Then the questions started piling on faster than I could process. Why was there a human tooth in our laundry? Whose was it? And why was it in the cycle with my hoodie? I didn't ask my wife, Marin, about it right away. Something about the timing felt wrong. Or maybe it was instinct. We'd been off lately. She'd been taking longer showers. Disappearing on errands that seemed to have no receipts. Smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine. But this was something else. I put the tooth in a sandwich bag. Labeled it with a Sharpie like I was on an episode of CSI. Threw it in my desk drawer and sat down, hands shaking. And then I made the mistake of opening her laptop. I never touched it before. We trusted each other. Or at least, I used to think we did. She'd left it open. Browser still running. A half-written email draft was sitting unsent, the cursor blinking at the end of one sentence. He said he'll take care of it this time, but I think Milo suspects something. Milo is me. I stared at that sentence for a full 5 minutes. I didn't read the rest of the email yet. I just sat there and realized something horrifying. She didn't say I know something. She said I suspect something, which means there is something. So I went back to the laundry room, searched the washer again, pulled out every piece of clothing, looked under it, around it, and that's when I saw it. Behind the dryer, tucked in the corner like it had been kicked there during a panic, a bloodied shoelace. And it wasn't either of ours. I sat there on the cold tile floor of the laundry room for a long time, holding the shoelace like it was evidence in a murder trial. It wasn't frayed or torn, just stained, dark, brownish red, almost dry. But the thing that really messed with me? It wasn't from any of our shoes. Not mine. Not Marin's. Not our son Leo's. It was longer than Leo's by a mile, too thick to be from any of Marin's sneakers, and I sure as hell don't own anything with royal blue eyelets. I bagged it. Same as the tooth. Labeled it again. Found behind dryer. 11:47 p.m. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the Sharpie. I wanted to ask her right then and there. I wanted to run into our bedroom, shake her awake, and demand answers. But something about the way she'd been acting lately told me that if I showed my cards too soon, I might never get the full truth. So instead, I walked quietly past our room, past the hallway where we hang up the Christmas photos every year, and down to the basement. To the old oak cabinet we never use anymore. The one with the broken lock I never got around to fixing. Behind it, stashed behind a stack of outdated tax folders, was a lockbox I'd seen maybe twice in my life. It was Marin's. She kept it tucked away after we moved in together. Said it had old journals and keepsakes from high school. She told me not to snoop, half joking. I didn't. I trusted her. God, I wish I hadn't. I took a screwdriver from the tool shelf and popped the latch. Inside was a USB stick taped to the underside of the lid, a couple of photos of her from college I'd never seen before, and, I'm not making this up, a second phone. Cheap burner type. Not an iPhone. No case. Dead battery. And just sitting there like it had been waiting to be found. I grabbed the USB and the phone, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Not loud. Not stomping. Just soft enough to let me know someone was trying not to be heard. I froze, heart slamming in my ears. The door at the top of the basement stairs was open. I hadn't heard it open. Milo, came Marin's voice. I swallowed. Yeah. What are you doing down there? Looking for a wrench. Shower's dripping again. A pause. Then, okay. Come to bed soon. I waited until I heard her door close. I didn't move for a full minute after that. I just stood there holding that second phone like it was made of explosives. Back upstairs, I charged the phone using my work laptop and stuck the USB into the port. The phone lit up quickly. No passcode. No wallpaper. Just one contact saved. No name, just a single emoji, stop sign. My stomach turned. The USB took longer. When it opened, it had only one folder. Inside that folder were 43 videos. All with generic names, VID_001, VID_002, and so on. I clicked the first one. And that's when I realized the basement wasn't just a place to hide things. It had been used. A lot. Because the camera angle was from the corner of the same basement, from just behind the tool shelf, and the person standing in frame, bathed in dim yellow light, wearing nothing but a hoodie, was Marin. And she wasn't alone. At first, I couldn't make out his face. The camera was low quality, the lighting was poor, and the video was grainy. But what struck me immediately was how comfortable they both looked. No hesitation. No awkwardness. They didn't look like two people sneaking around. They looked like two people who had done this more times than they could count. Marin was sitting on the old red couch we threw down in the basement last spring, the one we said we'd use for movie nights that never happened. She was barefoot, hoodie zipped halfway up, legs crossed, her hair tied back in a way I hadn't seen in years. The man next to her, taller, broad-shouldered, wearing a baseball cap, reached out and touched her knee like he owned the moment. She laughed. Not politely. Not nervously. She laughed like she was free. I paused the video. I couldn't take it all at once. My heart was doing something unnatural, skipping and stuttering like a bad engine. I felt this mix of confusion, grief, fury, but most of all, humiliation. My own house. My own basement. My own couch. And I hadn't had the faintest clue. I clicked to the next video. Then the next. And the next. Each one showed them meeting again and again, over weeks, maybe months. Sometimes they just sat and talked, other times not. There was no sound, just security footage-level visuals from the same angle every time. I watched her pace nervously in one clip, check her phone repeatedly in another, and once, she even cried into his chest, while he held her like they were a real couple. Like I didn't exist upstairs, probably watching TV or playing Lego with Leo, while she made excuses about needing quiet time to journal. I needed to know who he was. I paused on the clearest shot of his face. Zoomed in. Still blurry. But there was something familiar. The shape of his jaw. The way he tilted his head when he listened. I couldn't quite place it, but my brain was whispering something. A memory just out of reach. Then I remembered the phone. I unplugged the burner and opened the messaging app. One thread. One contact. The stop sign emoji. No names. But the messages were clinical. Almost cold. Short, abrupt instructions. Logistics. Stop sign. Thursday 10 p.m. Leave back door unlocked. Stop sign. No talking after. You said that was the rule. Stop sign. Delete this. Marin's replies were short too, but there was a tone, almost desperate. Like she was constantly trying to maintain his interest, like she was scared he'd vanish if she asked too many questions. Marin, will you at least stay for a minute after? Marin, I think he's suspicious. Marin, I missed last week because Leo had a fever, not because I didn't want to. Please don't be mad. I stopped reading. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. And that's when I made another mistake. I went back to the video folder, opened the last file, vid_043, and realized it was from just 3 nights ago. Marin was in the frame again, pacing. Alone this time. She looked anxious. Checking her phone. Then she pulled something out of her pocket. A key. She walked over to the tool shelf and reached behind it. Exactly where I'd found the lockbox. Except this time, there was something else there. She bent down, dragged something out from behind the shelf. Something wrapped in a sheet. It was long, heavy. She struggled with it. I paused the video. My mouth went dry, because whatever was wrapped in that sheet was roughly the size of a human body. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I just sat in my home office with the blinds drawn and every light off, the laptop screen burning into my face while the final frame of that last video played on repeat. Marin, crouched by the shelf. A shape too large to be anything innocent. The video ended just as she started dragging it off screen. No follow-up footage. No answers. No context. Just questions stacked on top of more questions. I replayed the last few days in my head like a crime scene reconstruction. That Tuesday, she said she had yoga. But when she came home, she didn't smell like sweat or shampoo. She smelled like pine cleaner. She changed immediately, showered without saying hello. I asked her how it went, and she said, "What?" Like I was interrupting a thought she was still in. My gut had been screaming for weeks. I just wasn't listening. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Told them I was dealing with a family emergency, which wasn't a lie. I just didn't say whose family. I waited until Marin left to drop off Leo at school and head to her book club, which, At this point, I wasn't even sure was real. As soon as the door shut behind her, I raced to the basement. The air hit different down there. Cold. Damp. Still. I moved the shelf first, just like she had. It scraped across the concrete louder than I expected, and for a second I froze, like maybe she was still home and would hear it. But no one came. Behind the shelf, where I'd found the lockbox, I now found nothing. No sheet. No object. No marks. No drag lines. No blood. Just a faint indentation in the dust, maybe. Like something heavy had been there, but wasn't anymore. I checked the walls. The utility sink. Under the couch. Every square inch. The more I searched, the less I found. And that's what terrified me most. Whatever it was, she'd had a plan for it. She'd cleaned it up. Hidden it. Like this wasn't the first time. Back upstairs, I returned to the burner phone. Scrolled deeper. I found something I'd missed the night before, a photo. Just one. Blurry, low light, taken in our backyard. It showed a figure in the distance, standing near the garden shed. My shed. The one only I have the key to. Only. I hadn't been in it for weeks. I grabbed the spare from the junk drawer and ran outside. The sun was sharp, slicing through the trees, making everything feel too real too fast. I unlocked the shed, flung open the door, and stood there, waiting for the worst. It wasn't a body, but it was bad. Inside was a shovel, caked with mud, a black trash bag tied tight, and stuffed into a cracked storage bin. And on top of the bin, placed carefully like a message, was my hoodie. The same one I'd washed 2 nights ago. The same one that had the tooth in it. I opened the bag slowly, ready to find something terrible. But instead, I found fabric. Layers of it. Bedsheets. Towels. All ruined. Stained with something brown, something that didn't smell like blood, but didn't smell clean either. And at the bottom, a small, leather-bound notebook. One I'd never seen before. I flipped it open, hands sweating so much the pages stuck to my fingers. There were dates, times, short entries, all in Marin's handwriting, and one word that kept showing up again and again, underlined in red. Darren. Not Darwin. Darren. I dropped the notebook like it burned me. Because Darren wasn't some stranger. He was our old neighbor. And he'd been missing for over 8 months. I hadn't thought about Darren in months. Not since the neighborhood flyers got taken down and the Facebook group moved on to debates about recycling bins and street lamp outages. But suddenly, I was back there, in that bitterly cold January when he vanished without a trace. He'd been living 2 houses down. Divorced. Quiet. Mowed his lawn too often. Nothing dramatic. No one suspected foul play. People figured he took off. Midlife crisis. New start. Maybe moved back to Indiana. He didn't have kids. His ex hadn't heard from him. It was weird, yeah, but not alarming. Just one of those stories that fade. Until now. Because now his name was scribbled over and over again in my wife's handwriting. I took the notebook back into the house, set it on the kitchen counter, and just stared at it like it might rearrange itself into something logical. There was one entry that caught me. March 9th, he said he would tell. Said he was done keeping secrets. I warned him. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I'm not a detective. I'm not some podcast-obsessed true crime nut with red yarn on a wall. I'm just a guy who thought he knew his wife. A guy who used to believe that secrets only lived in movies. I pulled out my phone and did something stupid. I typed Darren's name into my old email, hoping I still had the message thread from the time he'd lent me his pressure washer. Nothing. But as I was about to close the app, I saw a weird folder I didn't remember creating. Voicemail_backup. I clicked it. There was one file. Dated March 10th, the day after Marin's ominous notebook entry. I pressed play. The audio was muffled. Static at first. Then a voice. Male. Breathy. Panicked. Milo. I don't know if you'll ever hear this. I was going to come to you. I was going to say everything. She said I should keep quiet. That it wasn't my business. But it became my business. Because I saw it. In the basement. And now I think she knows I know. Then there was a long pause. I'm sorry, man. I should have told you sooner. Click. The voicemail ended. I just sat there, phone in hand, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself breathe. It was his voice. Darren's. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. Had no idea he even had my number still. But clearly he did. And clearly, he had tried to warn me. So why hadn't I seen the voicemail? I checked my call logs. Nothing from Darren. Checked the voicemail history. Empty. That message had only been saved because of that backup folder. I hadn't created it. I hadn't even known it existed, which meant either it was auto-synced from a device I no longer used, or someone had moved the file there, intentionally. Suddenly, I felt watched, like the walls had ears, like the silence in the house wasn't just silence, it was listening. Every creak of the floorboard upstairs made me jump. Every vibration from my phone felt like a gunshot. I turned to the window and saw something that made my stomach drop. The garden shed door was open. I had locked it. I know I had locked it. I grabbed the baseball bat from behind the pantry door, the one I kept for protection, even though I'd never needed it before. I stepped outside slowly, every inch of me tight with dread. The shed was empty. The bin was gone. All that remained was the shovel. And on the blade, freshly etched with something sharp, was a single word. Soon. I slammed the shed door shut, locked it 3 times, and bolted back inside. My breath was ragged, and I could feel my pulse throbbing in my fingertips. The word carved into the shovel wouldn't leave my mind. Soon. It wasn't a warning. It was a promise. Or maybe a countdown. Either way, someone wanted me to know that this game was still in motion, and I was already several moves behind. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. I needed to confront Marin. But I also knew I couldn't come at her directly. She was smarter than me. Always had been. The kind of smart that doesn't need to raise its voice. She would twist this. Gaslight me. Call me paranoid. Tell me I was spiraling again, like she used to during arguments when I caught her in half-truths. No. If I confronted her, it had to be controlled. Precise. But before I could plan anything, I heard a noise that froze me in place. Leo was talking to someone upstairs. At first I thought he might be on his tablet, but the tone was too natural, too unfiltered. Kids don't talk to screens that way. He was answering questions. I couldn't hear the other voice, just his. And he wasn't using his usual silly tone. It was soft, like he was trying not to wake someone. I walked upstairs, my feet quiet on the carpet. As I reached the top, his door creaked open just slightly. He was sitting on the floor, back turned to me, speaking in that low, deliberate voice. No, I didn't tell Daddy, he said. You said not to. I stepped into the doorway. Leo? Who are you talking to? He jumped, spun around, eyes wide. No one, he said quickly. Just talking to my toys. But there were no toys around him. Just crayons. Dozens of them. And paper. He tried to block it with his body, but I saw what he'd been drawing. It wasn't childlike. It wasn't silly monsters or smiling suns. It was architectural, detailed. A room. A basement. Ours. With a couch, a shelf, a figure with long hair sitting on the floor, and someone else, taller, standing over them. In the corner of the paper was a strange red circle, scribbled in a way that looked frantic, like he couldn't stop tracing it. It wasn't part of the basement. It didn't belong. It hovered in the corner like an eye. I knelt beside him. Leo, where did you see this? He hesitated. His little face crumpled. Mommy said it's a secret. A wave of cold ran through me. Did Mommy show you this? He nodded slowly, then whispered, only when I had bad dreams. She said if I told you, the circle would come back. I couldn't even process that. I just held him for a while. He was warm and small and trembling slightly, and the weight of it hit me all at once. Whatever Marin was involved in, she wasn't just keeping it from me. She was pulling Leo into it. For what purpose, I didn't know yet, but it couldn't be innocent. Later that night, after I tucked Leo in, I went into our bedroom and stared at Marin as she slept. Her breathing was calm. Her arm draped over the pillow like nothing was wrong. Like our lives weren't unraveling behind my back. I watched her for a long time, hoping maybe I'd feel something clear. Anger, hatred, fear. But what I felt was worse. I felt doubt. Not about her guilt, but about my ability to stop her. So I did something desperate. I went into her purse and took a photo of her driver's license. Then I opened a Tor browser, created a burner email, and sent a message to an anonymous forum I'd found months ago when I was down some weird rabbit hole about digital footprints and surveillance. I posted her name, her photo, my suspicions, and I asked one question. Has anyone heard of a woman named Marin Kells? Or seen anything strange in connection to that name? I hit send. I stared at the screen. And within 2 minutes, I got a reply. Yes. And if she's with you, you're already in danger. I reread the reply 4 times before it even fully registered. If she's with you, you're already in danger. What the hell did that mean? Who was she? I clicked on the user's profile, blank. No posts, no info, no way to trace. I sent a follow-up asking for more, anything. And I waited. Every minute that passed felt like a nail pressing deeper into my spine. 15 minutes later, another message came through. Check for the name Maren Wexler. Upstate New York. 5 years ago. It won't be under Kells. I didn't know what I expected. Some old college records? A parking violation? Maybe a forgotten marriage. I was still operating under the delusion that this could all be explained with something ordinary, some long-buried mistake that had grown out of proportion. But when I searched Maren Wexler Upstate New York, the first result that popped up wasn't a social media profile. It was an archived local news article. Wexler woman questioned in disappearance of local teacher. I stared at the headline, unable to click at first. The thumbnail image was grainy, but I recognized her. Same eyes, same mouth, hair darker, no smile. The article described how a woman named Maren Wexler had been questioned, but not charged, in the 2018 disappearance of a private tutor named Evan Harper. They'd been romantically linked, but no formal relationship had ever been confirmed. Evan's body was never found. His car was discovered abandoned near a hiking trail. No signs of struggle. No digital footprint after that night. Maren told police she hadn't seen him in days. Claimed he'd been acting erratic. That he'd once broken into her apartment, uninvited. She filed a restraining order the next morning. No charges were ever filed. Case went cold. The picture the article painted was eerily familiar. A woman who knew how to stay just outside suspicion. Who said just enough to cast doubt. Who protected her version of the truth like it was a fortress. I felt dizzy. I closed the laptop and just sat there in the dark, head spinning. She had changed her last name. I had married her. And I never knew who she really was. At breakfast the next morning, I couldn't look at her. She poured coffee like nothing had happened, humming some melody under her breath like we weren't surrounded by 100 invisible red flags. She asked how I slept. I lied. I asked about her day. She lied. Then Leo said something that stopped my heart. He was playing with his cereal, mashing his spoon into the soggy mess, when he looked up and said, "Mommy, is Mr. Darren still in the woods?" Maren froze. So did I what? I asked, as calmly as I could manage. Leo looked at me, confused. The man from the basement. The one you told Mommy you didn't see. My skin went cold. What man? The one who used to live by the mailbox. He sleeps under the trees now. Maren smiled, tight, forced. Sweetheart, remember what we talked about? That was just pretend. Like your monster dreams. Leo nodded slowly and went back to his cereal. But I could tell by the way his shoulders curled that it wasn't pretend. That wasn't something a 5-year-old just made up. Later, when Maren left to run errands, I checked the back of her car. There was mud on the tires. Fresh. Pine needles stuck in the grooves. And her trunk smelled faintly of bleach. That was when I stopped wondering if I was crazy. I wasn't. Something terrible had happened. Maybe more than once. And the woman I married, the woman sleeping beside me, raising my child, whispering secrets into the night, was not just hiding something. She was something else entirely. And whatever she was planning, it wasn't over yet. I didn't confront her that day, or the next. Something inside me told me the truth wasn't finished unfolding. That if I acted too soon, I'd never really understand what I'd been living in. So instead, I played my part. I smiled when she smiled. I helped make dinner. I kissed her cheek when Leo was watching. And all the while, I was preparing. I had the notebook, the USB, the messages, the voicemail backup. I had digital copies stored in cloud drives under dummy accounts. I even printed key pages and stored them in a locked box at the bank. I contacted a lawyer, not just any lawyer, but someone who specialized in emergency custody cases. I found a therapist for Leo and booked him under the guise of emotional checkups. I told the school, quietly, carefully, but still, part of me hoped I was wrong. Until the night I followed her. It was a Thursday. She told me she was going to meet an old friend from college for coffee. She wore perfume she never wore for me. Took extra time with her makeup. I kissed her goodbye and counted to 30 before I grabbed my coat and followed her car. She didn't go to any cafe. She drove 30 minutes north, into the forest roads just outside city limits. Past the park, past the picnic areas, into the gravel trails. I turned off my headlights and parked 2 bins behind her. She got out, opened her trunk, pulled out a shovel. I wanted to vomit. But then something happened that I didn't expect. She dropped the shovel and started crying. Not softly, not a single tear, but a full, uncontrollable collapse. She sank to her knees in the dirt, arms wrapped around herself, and for the first time in a long time, I saw someone human. Someone terrified. Someone who looked haunted. I stayed hidden, watched her sob in the headlights of her own car for what felt like forever. Eventually, she stood up, left the shovel in the woods, got back into the car, and drove home. She didn't bury anything. She didn't meet anyone. She just broke. That was the moment I stopped being afraid of her. Because I realized something vital. Marin wasn't some unstoppable mastermind. She was a runaway fire. Uncontrolled. Consumed by secrets and mistakes she couldn't outrun anymore. The person she pretended to be had burned away long ago, and all that remained was ashes and makeup and a nervous smile. That night, while she slept, I packed Leo's bag. I already had full custody paperwork ready. My lawyer was fast. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Not a dramatic one. Just the truth. I know everything. Leo and I are leaving. Don't follow us. Please get help. Then I walked out of that house and never looked back. It's been 9 months since that night. The police did eventually reopen Darren's case. I turned everything over, without fanfare, without media. Quietly. I don't know if she'll ever be convicted. She fled the state before they could question her. Maybe she's someone else now, somewhere else. Maybe she always was. But I don't care. Because Leo is safe. He smiles again. He draws happy things now. Dogs, trees, flying cars. He talks in his sleep sometimes, but it's just kid stuff. Silly dreams. Nothing whispered in the dark anymore. I bought a little house 2 towns over. Nothing big. Just enough. I started running again. Lost 20 pounds. I read books. I sit in silence without fear. I laugh. Genuinely laugh. And sometimes I cry. But not because I'm broken. I cry because I got out. I cry because I made it. And every time I see Leo's face light up when he runs into my arms after school, I know the truth I spent so long denying. Sometimes, the scariest thing in the world isn't what you discover. It's what you refuse to see. But once you open your eyes, you don't ever close them again.